What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now because today we are going all the way in on the New York Rangers and what is shaping up to be one of the most consequential and frankly wild off-seasons this franchise has seen in years. We are talking trades, we are talking drama, we are talking Chris Drury doing what Chris Drury does. Keeping everybody guessing, keeping every reporter on their toes, and making decisions that have the entire hockey world either nodding their heads or losing their minds. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, because we are breaking all of it down right here, right now. Let's start at the very top. The New York Rangers finished last in the Eastern Conference this past season. Dead last. On Broadway, at Madison Square Garden, the most storied hockey market in North America. That is not just a bad season, that is a statement. That is the kind of finish that forces a reckoning, forces a front office to look itself in the mirror and say, okay, what are we actually doing here? And to his credit, Chris Drury did exactly that back in January when that now famous letter went out to the fans. Not a rebuild, he said. A retool. Those were the words. And at the time, people were skeptical. People were angry. People wanted heads to roll. But here we are months later, and Drury is out here moving pieces on this chessboard faster than anyone expected. And suddenly, the conversation around this team is shifting. Now, before we get into the specific moves, let's just talk about the elephant in the room, the Mason McTavish saga, because if you have been following Rangers news over the last several weeks, you know this story had everyone on the edge of their seats. Reports broke from Frank Saravalli, one of the most connected insiders in the game, that the Rangers and the Anaheim Ducks had entered advanced trade discussions centered around Mason McTavish, the number 3 overall pick from the 2021 draft. A 23-year-old center who, despite not fully living up to expectations yet, represented exactly the kind of youth and upside that a team trying to retool desperately needs. Pierre LeBrun confirmed it. 2 teams were in on McTavish in the final hours before the draft. New York was one of them. The other was the St. Louis Blues. And right there, right in that moment, you had a genuine bidding war about to take place over a young center who carries a $7 million cap hit for 5 more years. Here is where it gets fascinating. The Rangers package reportedly included a roster player. The Blues were offering picks. 2 completely different philosophies in how to acquire a talent like McTavish. And Drury, to his credit, understood what the Rangers actually had to offer and what the market was doing. The Ducks wanted a younger centerpiece. They wanted futures. They wanted to win that negotiation. And rather than get dragged into an overpay, rather than pile 2 first-round picks onto a prospect deal and get absolutely fleeced, Drury walked. He pulled out of the McTavish talks when the asking price started climbing beyond what made sense for this team. Now look, some fans are going to be upset about that. Some people wanted McTavish in blue and white, and you understand that instinct because the Rangers' center depth is genuinely a concern. Vincent Trocheck has been all over the trade rumor mill. There is not a single center prospect in the system projected to play meaningful NHL minutes anytime soon. The need is real, but Drury made the calculated decision that the price was too steep, and honestly, he was probably right. Giving up Braden Schneider plus the 26th pick for a project player who got healthy scratched twice in the playoffs would have been a disaster for the fan base, and Drury knew it. So if McTavish was a no, where does Drury turn? This is where things get really interesting. Because the answer was already forming. The Rangers went out and acquired Pavel Dorofeyev from the Vegas Golden Knights, and this is the move that people need to be talking about more. This is not a flashy name that casual fans know, but hockey people know what Dorofeyev is. He is 25 years old. He scored 37 goals last season, 35 the year before that. We are talking about 72 goals over 2 seasons. That is legitimate offensive production. That is not a fluke. That is a real player. And Drury locked him up immediately on a 7-year, $77 million contract. The price to get him? The 26th pick in this draft plus the 92nd pick, and a top 10 protected first-rounder in 2028. Is that a lot? Yes. Is it worth it? For a 25-year-old who produces like that, absolutely. This is the kind of move a team makes when it is serious about winning again on a real timeline. And look, let's also talk about the draft itself because the Rangers went in there and selected Albert Smits with the 5th overall pick. An 18-year-old defenseman. And now the entire organization is sitting around asking the question, is this kid ready to play top 6 minutes in October? That is a wild question to be asking about an 18-year-old. But that tells you everything about where this team's roster construction is at right now. They need bodies. They need talent. And they need it to develop fast because Drury has already mortgaged picks in 2028 and 2030 to make these moves happen, which means the pressure to win in the window between now and then is very real. Now let's talk about Alexis Lafreniere, because no Rangers conversation this offseason is complete without it. The rumors have been swirling for months. Montreal came calling. Reports from Frank Saravalli suggested the Canadiens were whispering about a package of a pick, a prospect, and Patrick Lane in exchange for Lafreniere. The Rangers rejected it. And sources close to the situation, including reporting from The Athletic's Vincent Mercogliano and Peter Baugh, have made it clear that the expectation is Lafreniere stays. He is not being moved. Not right now. And when you look at the numbers, that makes sense. 24 goals. 57 points. A full 82-game season. His final 27 games of the year were elite. 14 goals and 28 points. That is a player finding his game. That is momentum you do not trade away for Patrick Lane and a couple of picks when you are trying to build a new core. Drury would only move Lafreniere for a truly comparable return, and nothing on the table met that bar. Smart. But here is the tension that exists right now, and this is the real story underneath all these transactions, the trust issue. Chris Drury has been a polarizing figure as general manager, and not always for the right reasons. Insiders like Vince Mercogliano have pointed out how the discomfort around his handling of veterans like Trouba and Kreider, allowing trade speculation to swirl publicly without honest conversations with those players, has created a culture of unease. Other players around the league notice how respected leaders get treated in New York. They noticed how Barclay Goodrow got moved quietly in the summer without warning. They factor that in when evaluating whether they want to be a Ranger. That is real. That matters. And it is something Drury has to fix not just with transactions, but with the way he communicates and operates as a leader of this organization. And speaking of the leadership structure, this is a huge subplot to everything happening right now. James Dolan, the elder one, is still running the Knicks after their NBA championship. That means the hockey side of MSG has a new dynamic at play. Drury has a new boss essentially, and the moves he has made this offseason, the Drury's acquisition, staying disciplined on McTavish, holding on to Lafreniere, those are moves designed to impress. To show that he has a plan, that the retool letter was not just words, that there is a vision being executed. And for now, it is working. The Rangers are in a genuinely better spot today than they were a year ago. No Panarin. No massive albatross contracts looming. Younger, faster, more cap flexibility. The Metropolitan Division outside of Carolina is wide open. There is a path to the playoffs. There is a path to relevance. But Braden Schneider is still out there as a restricted free agent. That situation has not been resolved, and it is one of the most important decisions of the summer. He just signed a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. And while that buys time, the Rangers need to figure out if he is a long-term piece or a trade chip for another middle six forward. That is the next domino. That is the next chapter in this offseason story. And knowing Drury, it will not be quiet. Nothing ever is with this front office. Look, here is where I land on all of this. Chris Drury is not perfect. He has made mistakes. He has miscommunicated. He has at times made this fanbase feel like they were watching someone learn on the job in real time. But this summer, he has shown something. He walked away from the McTavish deal when the price was wrong. He went and got Drury's at real value for a real scorer. He held on to Lafreniere when the return was not good enough. He drafted a potential franchise defenseman at 5th overall. And he has built a roster construction that, for the first time in 2 years, has some breathing room and some excitement attached to it. The Rangers are not a Stanley Cup contender today. But for the first time in a while, they look like a team with a real plan. And in New York, in the NHL, that matters more than people give it credit for. The buzz is real. The moves are real. And Chris Drury? He might just be cooking something big after all. If you made it this far, drop a comment below. Are you buying the Rangers retool? Is Drury